wrote a little something to kind of like set the mood, set the tone of the episode. You feel the heat of the day shine through the windows as you continue to polish your royal vambraces, your favorite part of your pristine, flawless armor. You wipe a bead of sweat off of your perfectly manicured brow and tuck a strand of golden hair that would make any woman swoon behind your ear. You finally made it home after a months-long journey, but you've got no time to rest. You only have time to give society the impression that you care and to show them that you're better than them. In front of you sits an iron throne, the one you want, the one you deserve. You rest your polished glove on it. A clash of metal echoes through the large, empty hall behind you. It's a sound you love, a sound you hope to hear more frequently in your future. The sound is interrupted by footsteps. You don't know who it is yet, but you're already annoyed. You turn to see an empty shell of a man walk towards you peacefully. A man who hides his truths behind a stalwart mask. An honorable man who believes society can't see through his horrible acting. He obligatorily stops to talk, because of course he would. Ignoring a person in your position might lead to his death, and he knows that. "My," he says, "what shiny armor you have." His words resemble a compliment, but instead they cut through you like a hot knife through butter. A veiled insult about your recent inactivity. Sure, you've got numerous accolades and awards for your exploits and accomplishments in battle, but you got those years ago. Now you do nothing but pretend. You are Davecavedraws, me, the host of Game of Thrones Noobs. Welcome to the show. Yeah. And I'm joined by JoJo. How you doing today?
Hello, I'm doing great. Ready to go.
And Kit.
Ready for the call of action.
Hello, everybody. I love the monologue, and I must say it answered a lot of questions that I had about that scene. And we can get into that later in the show.
I'm glad you guys knew what scene it was. I was like, oh god, no one's gonna know. Yeah, it was a little fun little thing to write. All right, so season 1, episode 3. It's called Lord Snow. How'd you guys feel about it? Or Kit, did you want to ask your question again that you asked before?
I was just wondering how everybody felt about. I'm just saying the same thing you just said.
All right. Yeah, what was your guys? We already talked about this before the episode, but how'd you guys feel about it?
Wonderful. I like this episode. I think it was a little less exciting than the previous episodes, but there was just as much intrigue happening, and I think we get like a little bit more of the Game of Thrones verbal jousting, which makes it more interesting.
Yes.
I've started a new personal segment. A new personal endeavor, and the endeavor is, what are my predictions for what my co-hosts are going to think of the episode?
Ooh.
And I said, I think Dave is gonna be and I think JoJo's gonna like this episode. And homies, I feel pretty good about that one.
Nailed it.
But how do you feel
Nailed
about it?
it.
How do you feel?
I'll show my cards. My general rule of thumb is that if I feel about it, I'm like, JoJo's probably gonna like it. Yeah, it wasn't the most exciting episode for me. It was difficult. I felt like there was a lot of talk, and I didn't find a lot. That can be interesting, but it didn't keep my attention for a lot of it until the Dothraki showed up. I'm House Dothraki today, everybody.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm worried about like how I am ruining my perception of these episodes by taking like incessant notes in the way that I do, because it forces me to like watch it in a different manner. I'm nitpicking the hell out of almost every aspect of the show. So I'm probably ruining my viewing experience But that being said, also, okay, this was the first time I did it kind of inebriated. I live in California. I partake in the weeds sometimes. Maybe I'm starting to think maybe I shouldn't do that anymore, because it was a slog, especially for, maybe it was just for this episode, but yeah, I was like constantly checking like how much longer is this episode? This is taking a while. But I didn't hate it though. I don't know, because it's all like set up. So it's hard to say, like, is it a good episode? Is it a bad episode because it was boring, or is it good because it's like setting up like really interesting stuff? So I still have no idea how to rate these episodes. I mean, I'm going to give the rating at the end. It's probably going to be pretty low, but it's like, is that fair? Because if I'm excited for the next episode, does that make it a good episode? Or like, I don't know what, how I should proceed. I guess if I'm just bored, then maybe that's how I should rate or view the episode. I don't know. I guess overall feeling is it was pretty bland, but it set up a lot of interesting stuff that I'm excited to see happen in the future. So it's the Realm Report is the next section. I'm going to start like phasing this out, I feel like. But we do have some quick, I'll just mention some quick things that happened. The episode aired first on May 1st, 2011. Osama bin Laden was killed on May 2nd, 2011, the day after this episode came out.
Wow.
I thought you said Obama.
Yeah, dude.
I was whirling in my head right now, like, what?
Barack Obama
No.
died 13 years ago.
He's still. Oh.
Movie releases, Fast 5, which I've mentioned the last 3 episodes. But also Thor, the first Thor movie came out May 6th, 2011. It was I liked it. The coffee shop scene, everyone likes that scene. It's got a lot of Dutch angles. I think that movie's famous for just having like every scene is like a Dutch angle or something. Video games, same as like last week. Portal 2, Mortal Kombat 9 came out. Music releases, Born This Way, Lady Gaga album. I'm not up on my Lady Gaga history. And then also the song Rolling in the Deep by Adele continued to dominate charts. Remember there were music charts? Anyway, that concludes
Okay.
the Realm Report. Get out of here, Realm Report. I don't know. Let's recap what's happened in the story so far. So basically, Ned Stark has chosen to go to King's Landing with Robb. Jon has left for the Night Watch. Someone tried to assassinate Bran and Cat. Joffrey caused some problems at the end of the last episode. And Daenerys figures out a way to control Cal. It feels like I was constantly having to remind myself while watching this, we're only on episode 3, and so much stuff has happened. I kept thinking we were on like episode like 5 or something. It's like a lot of stuff has happened. Again, I was pretty high while watching these both nights. I usually separate it into 2 nights because, again, it takes me a long time. And Chapter 1. Oh, I also separated them into chapters, and I've named the chapters this time. Okay, Chapter 1, Arrival in King's Landing. So this first part's just all about them getting into King's Landing. Robb and Ned... I think I had it wrong, but anyway. Robb and Ned make it into King's Landing, finally. Mr. Bean greets Ned and tells him Grand Maester Pace... that's not his name, I don't know his name, is setting up a little hangout and wants Ned to come join. And he tells Jory, aka the lead singer of the band Creed, to get his girl settled in. Mr. Bean asks if Ned would like to change into something more appropriate, and Ned looks at him like he wants to murder him. Okay. And so Ned is led to a huge hall. There is a lot of like comedic scenes with Ned in this episode. Like weirdly, he has a lot of like, what the fuck did you just say? It kind of looks.
Yep.
All right, Ned is led to a huge hall and the crazy looking throne. Oh, this is the scene that inspired my little opening here.
Yes.
Homelander is sitting at the foot of the throne, taking off his gloves. They get into a little like bully off again. They like immediately start with like the veiled insults. They shoot little like snarky insults at each other, subtle but not so subtle at the same time because they both know what's happening. Jamie says something like "the king shits and the hand wipes," poking fun at Ned for just doing whatever the king tells him to do, basically. Dude, if someone said that to me, I'd be like, "Yeah, dude, he like kills people if they don't do what he says." Like, what are we doing here? Like, but anyway, Ned makes fun of him for cleaning his armor with no scratches. Jamie is like, people always swing but miss because I'm too good. And then Jamie brings up Ned's brother being murdered in the very same room that they're in. He's pulling out. He's really like trying to hit below the belt here. And then they talk about how Jamie killed Aerys Targaryen. And then they say a lot of things. I didn't want to like list it all out. So, but it's all bullying, all like veiled insults. And then Ned continues walking into the hangout room with Master Pice. That's not his. I don't know what his name is. Maester Pice, but Pice is wrong. But that's anyway. That's what I thought they said. In the room, there are several men. And again, I didn't know any of their names, so I made some up myself. We've got a meth addict. We've got Old Man Marley from we've got Old Man Marley from Home Alone, Uncle Fester, and then we have the guy that Dwight Schrute keeps calling the Hobbit when he hangs out with Ryan in The Office. You know what I'm talking about? That little short guy.
Yep, the little short guy. Yep.
Okay, they basically tell Ned they want to throw him a celebratory tournament that honors his arrival. Am I correct on that? I may have missed that part. They want to throw him a tournament, and then they show him like a list of like the prize money they're gonna hand out to the winners, and it's like a lot of money. And Ned's like, doesn't the king already owe a bunch of money? And the meth addict, it's Peter Littlefinger, but I didn't know his name at this point, so.
Meth addict.
The meth addict is like, dude, you don't even know. Ned he owes like $6 million. And Ned is like, dude, that's stupid. You guys suck. And then he apologizes and blames his rude attitude on the long ride he just had. And then that scene is done. And then we move on to Megan Fox and Joffrey are hanging out in a Sir Lawrence Alma Tadema painting. I'm an artist.
Yeah.
Megan Fox is tending to Joffrey's wolf wounds. Megan's like, you were super brave fighting that beast. You really showed you were awesome. And Joffrey's like, dude, I wimped out and screamed like a loser. And Megan's like, no, you're allowed to lie because you're gonna be king. You can say whatever you want and people have to believe it, and if they don't, you can kill them. And then Joffrey changes subjects and is like, he's like, do I have to marry the redhead? And Megan Fox is like, yeah, dude. But again, when you're king, you can do whatever you want. So whatever. It's just like you can marry her, but you can sleep with whoever. And then Malfoy tells her he hates the Northerners. I think he's talking about the Starks. And then they should double the tax. They should like tax them double and have them supply like 10,000 men to the army. And then Megan Fox is like, hell yeah, dude. You speak your truths, future king. But then she's also like, but you're speaking like a dumb little boy. That's a stupid idea because they're wild and can't be trained. And she also says, anyone who isn't us is an enemy. I don't know if I summarized that scene properly. When he's talking about, we'll get to it in a second. Wait, how many more scenes? Okay, yeah, we have 2 more scenes and then we'll talk about it. Okay, Arya the redhead. Sansa. I didn't know her name. I forgot her name until like halfway through this episode. But I don't think they ever say her name in this episode. I could be wrong about that. But anyway, Arya the redhead and a nun are eating some lunch in another Sir Lawrence Alma Tadema painting. I couldn't think of anything more creative, so I repeated myself. Arya is stabbing her food with a letter opener. It's like a small little butter knife. repeatedly. It's really annoying. She's like just like pounding the table with this like into her whatever they're eating. They're like fish. I don't know what they're eating. She's being kind of annoying because it's making loud like pounding noises while everyone is trying to just chill and eat lunch. The nun is like, "Hey, dumb kid, stop." And Arya says she's practicing to kill Malfoy. What's his name again?
Yeah, Malfoy.
Joffrey. Okay.
Joffrey.
Ned comes in. Arya leaves after getting into a little spat with Sansa. And Ned sits down and gives her a doll. And she's like, "I hate it." And then leaves. And then Ned's like, war is easier than daughters. And then that's that scene. And then Ned visits Arya's room. She's playing with the sword that Jon gave her. Ned's like, "Swords aren't for girls, they're for boys." I don't think he says that. Does he? I don't know. Arya's like, "Well, maybe I don't want to be a lady." And she just wants to get revenge on the butcher's boy. She feels kind of responsible for it. And now she hates the Lannisters. She also hates the idea of Sansa having to marry Joffrey. And Ned reminds her that the winter is coming and tells Arya she's never experienced it. And she's going to have to live with these annoying people because winter sucks. And Ned lets her keep the sword. She's named it Needle, by the way. And her catchphrase is "stick 'em with the pointy end." Basically them just arriving into the place is what happened. Yeah.
Yeah. So, we don't really get a shot of King's Landing at this point, do we? We just kind of get a shot of them arriving at the wall, and you see the stag head above the doorway.
Yeah, we don't really get a wide establishing shot of the entire city like we did for Winterfell. That is notable.
I can't remember when we finally see King's Landing, but yeah, this was like I was like, "Oh man, I wanted that." However, I think this is the first time. Yeah, it's the first time we see the Iron Throne.
Yes.
And it's surrounded in this hallway, this great hall. You look at the setting, it's got those warm colors again, but the columns have these vine leaves crafted around them, and you got the candelabras and the glass portrait in the back. Behind the throne is a nice little mosaic of the stags and the does that represent House Baratheon. And you'll see throughout the changing of Game of Thrones how the throne room modifies itself. So I thought that was a nice little visual there. I was like, oh, okay, this is specific to Robert Baratheon's rule. And then you've got like the 7-pointed star on the walls, a religious thing, so you know that the House Baratheon is kind of leaning towards the 7-pointed star, 7-pointed text, the 7 gods, rather than the gods that they'll worship.
Oh, that is a good observation, man. I didn't notice that.
So that's like little not character notes, but little things about the characters in the set and then they have their verbal joust, and I like this because I feel like it's the second time they come across each other, and I think Ned walks away with the victory in this one. And there's a weird thing that Jamie says. He's like, "Oh, 500 men or however just didn't do anything, and this room was silent as a crypt." And when Ned is walking away, you get that empty hollowness of his footsteps as he's just basically leaving Jamie to this silent crypt. And it's kind of like to me it's a literary thing where he's letting Jamie carry the burden of that silence, because he's like, I've made my peace with my brother's death. You still are clearly hanging on to it to try to utilize it against me. But, he's kind of just leaving him to that element. You carry that burden. Then we get to the small council room, and we have this wonderful tapestry in the back, which I hadn't noticed before. And it's a depiction of the rebellion, Robert's rebellion, when he's winning the war against the Targaryens. but there's a weird lighting that happens across it. It's hitting these two white horses, and I was like, what in literature is relevant to two white horses? And I just, it goes back to the Book of Revelations, where there's a white horse that represents and wages war. There's another white horse that has no name, and just basically like apocalypse and death kind of thing. But it's weird how that lighting was specific to that visual, like it very intentional. And I like the cameraing for the small council, where in one scene when they're interacting, they all pretty much stay. They pretty much stay in the same positioning when they're delivering their dialogue, so they have this equality about them. They're all of the same status at this point, except for the Meister. For some reason, they film him a little bit off of that point, but everybody else kind of talk, finally sit down. Then we get to the scene with Circe and Joffrey.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Megan Fox.
And I like how you described it as a Lawrence Almadema painting, because that's kind of what I was thinking.
Oh,
I was like,
yeah.
this is beautiful. But I got a note here about this. I like the dynamic they're building up between Circe and Joffrey, but I'll wait a moment until we get to another specific kind of talk.
Okay.
And then we get to Arya, Abel.
They are, real quick with Joffrey, is like we haven't seen a lot of him yet, but every time we had, like in the last episode, he caused some major problems, and he's not a very likable guy. And now he's like saying what he would do if he was king, and we know he's gonna be king at some point in his life because he's a Lannister. So we're like, this kid sucks, and at some point he's gonna rule over everybody, and like we don't like that. Would suck if that happened. They're really like building up that plot, that story point. So just wanted to point that.
Absolutely. They're kind of giving you a little bit of Joffrey and his I don't know, tendency towards violence. That's just how it feels to me in this point. He's like, oh yeah, I would make them do what I want them to do.
Yeah, he's like a naturally violent kind of, like evil person, and like there's no one to tell him no, and it's almost like his mom is like encouraging his like horrible tendencies, giving him ideas like, you can just kill people and it's cool, you're the king, like whatever. Like
there was also a line that Circe says when she says, your father was a rebel and a traitor, and I thought to myself, have we heard that like kind of cadence and that kind of delivery of rebel and traitor from somebody else? And I was like, oh yeah, Darth Vader. Like,
oh no way.
You're a rebel and a traitor, take her away.
I thought you were going to say in Jennifer's Body, starring Megan Fox, when she, I don't know, I never saw that movie. Anyway, go ahead.
Put on the Darth Vader helmet. No. But yeah, then we get to the scene where Arya's stabbing the table, and this is one of the only few interactions we actually have between Ned and Sansa, which is kind of sad to me. And it kind of makes me not like Sansa at this point in the story.
Oh, I have a lot to say about that.
She's dismissive, and she's like, she's doing her childhood thing, and he's trying to be a good dad, but he doesn't know how, right? But yeah, that's pretty much my notes on that.
I did have moments like that. My dad used to always go on like business trips, and sometimes he'd bring us home like gifts and stuff, like Power Ranger dolls when we were like children. But I remember one time in like high school, the last time he brought us home a gift, he was still bringing us home like Power Ranger toys, like long after we didn't give two shits about Power
man.
Rangers.
Yeah. No.
And we were just like, why did you no, well, I mean, it sounds awesome, but we were like, we don't like this. Like, why did you think we would? It's been like years since we've watched it. So that's what this scene felt like to me. It's like his.
Oh.
Yeah.
That was my dream, even as a high schooler. I'm like, give me the Power Rangers. All the Power Rangers.
We probably should have kept them. I'm sure they're worth like lots of money now. We don't have any of them. Like.
I wrote down a lot about Sansa in this scene. I feel terrible for her. I know that I want to acknowledge she's extraordinarily unpleasant in this scene. I like, I don't want to gloss over that. She's extremely unpleasant to be around, and I don't blame anybody for watching that and going, oh my goodness gracious. But what, I see that as like vulnerability. I get the impression, and I can only go off of what the show has shown us so far, that Sansa's extremely lonely. I don't think we've seen any of her brothers interact with her. Arya's her only sister, and Arya is the least like Sansa. Mm-hmm. Arya probably shares less in common with Sansa than all of her brothers. The only attachment, other than maybe her mother, that we've seen Sansa have so far in the show is with Lady, the direwolf, and then insta kill, like, and then they kill her off.
And Joffrey to a certain degree.
Right, she was all excited to be betrothed to Joffrey, and we don't really know where she's at with that right now, but probably not doing so good considering the situation. I don't know, I guess I just get the impression that she's really, really lonely and isolated, and she doesn't have any real secure attachments. And she's a preteen with all the hormones that come along with that. And then along comes her dad, and he is like, I got you this gift. And he just does not nail it. It is a gift that means nothing to her because it has nothing to do with where she is in life at this moment. And perhaps I'm reading too much into it, I don't know, but I can imagine that's just another reminder that she's alone and has no one to relate to and no one to connect to. And so she like explodes at him, and I'm not condoning that. It's hard to watch. And then she walks away, and then Ned's reaction is essentially like, women, am I right? Like, I don't know. I see Sansa as really, really vulnerable and really, really craving someone to connect with her, and just no one can.
Well, that's a fair point, because I think out of her, like you said, she doesn't interact with her brothers or anything, and the only interaction she does have that's meaningful is in episode 1 with her mom when she's braiding her hair. They're talking about her ambition to be queen, right. And then the rest of the time she is kind of isolated. So yeah, that's interesting. But I do think your last sentiment about Ned with him just being like women, right, is a little.
It is a little reductive. I know. But, I know.
Yeah. I think it's not. I think it's more like I don't know how to. I'm bad with children or whatever. It felt a little more.
For sure. I was being a little reductive. He doesn't actually have that attitude towards. But it's just it's just an example of he wasn't like, oh, I want to connect with Sansa as an individual. It was like, oh, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how to connect to my children. I don't know.
Yeah. Ned's it's funny how Ned is kind of like filling the role of the comedic relief in this episode, because it's not like 2 times. It's very subtle. It's not like ha ha ha, but it's like he has a lot of little moments. He's already had 2. He's had one with Mr. Bean in the beginning. He's like, what do you mean my stuff's not appropriate or whatever? And then now, and he has a few more after this.
Yeah.
It kind of speaks to his dynamic, his character, as when he's like no nonsense kind of thing, and not about formality in the at all. He's just like ready to get the job done, kind of thing. That's why the guy says like, "Oh, do you want to change?" And he's like, "What?"
Yeah.
He just goes on up.
Like it didn't even occur to him. Like, what do you mean? Like, what change?
On the subject of vulnerability, I have similar feelings towards Joffrey.
You want?
I don't know. I could be reading.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I mean, again, I could be just reading too much into this. I don't know, but tell me if you guys disagree. I haven't seen anything from Joffrey that would suggest that he has like a robust sense of self. And I guess what I mean by that is like if I were to sit him down and say, "What do you like? Like, who are you? What do you want?" You know, I think his answer would be like, "I'm a Lannister and I want to conquer the world," or whatever. But it's like, okay, but like who are you? What do you like? What do you want? I don't know. We haven't seen anything from him that suggests he knows.
I don't know about that. I feel like in that scene specifically, we actually do learn. He's been thinking a great deal about, unless he thought about all that stuff on the spot, like all the stuff where he's like, "Oh, we need 10,000 soldiers. We need to force them to work for." I forget what he says. But it seemed, I feel like in that scene, it was telling me like, oh, he's thought a lot about being king. Like he knows what he's gonna do when he's king. I
agree. I see that though as him caring a lot about what everybody thinks of him, and wanting everyone to think of him a certain way. But I want to know what does he think of himself?
Yeah, I think this gives us insight into like Cersei's kind of self-serving nature, where she's actually the one grooming Joffrey for rule. So his ambitions aren't readily defined to himself, but then she, like David said, is kind of nurturing his sense of violence and enabling him to nurture his lust for power and this sense of status that he has, that everyone else is like supposed to see him on top. And he already has the as far as like ambition goes, he knows he's already going to be king, so he doesn't have to even try. And so what does that mean in terms of what he wants? Now he just wants to utilize his power, because with his mother saying, you'll make it what you want, so the truth will be what you make it. Her saying all those other things that'll eventually influence him to be like, this is my right. I was born to this.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's coming at it from a very like bad angle, though. Like obviously it's Cersei. Like, because in the beginning of that scene, he is like she's telling him like, you were brave fighting that beast, and he's like, what are you talking about? I didn't fight it. Like I got mauled by it, and then I cried. And she's like, no, you're allowed to lie. You get to make up the stories, and they become true. This is how you need to think as the king, is basically what she's saying. You need to lie all the time and make your truths become realities, and just kill anybody that's in your way. Except for me. Not me. I'm cool, but everybody else.
He asks her, he's like, so you agree the Starks are enemies? And she's like, anybody who isn't us is an enemy. Like that is a pretty absolutist kind of statement that doesn't cater to any kind of tenderness or qualities you might see in a king that is selfless. Instead, it's maintaining power and maintaining.
All right, chapter 2, Justice for Bran, part 1. There's a lot of Bran stuff in this. All right, now we're back in Winterfell with Bran, still in bed. Oh yeah, so he woke up at the end of the last episode. So this is the first time we're seeing Bran awake. I think. I'm pretty sure. Wait, did he awake at the end? Okay, okay, never mind. I'm getting episodes mixed up. Okay.
All right.
So now, okay, starting over. We're back in Winterfell with Bran, still in bed. The old lady from Titanic is knitting by his bed, just like Kat used to do. But Kat's not there because she's off on her mission to King's Landing. Bran finds her stories boring. He prefers like horror stories and like Meat Canyon videos. She busts out a crazy horror story about winter on the spot. I feel like she's just telling like truths though. Like this is what happened when winter comes. And then she basically tells him like how the White Walkers come through the towns and like kill everybody. It's like 30 Days of Night, that vampire movie. They're interrupted by Tom, right? Second Rob.
Rob?
Second Rob.
Stark?
Who tells her to leave, and he it was Rob though, right? It wasn't the other guy that looks like him, kind of. I'm guessing it was Rob.
Yes, it was Rob Stark. Yes, you're talking about. I know who you're talking about, and I can't remember his name. So
okay, he wants to be alone with him, and Tom. So she leaves, and Tom tries to ask him if he remembers like who pushed him. Then Bran can't remember anything. He has like amnesia from that particular moment in time, apparently. And then Tom's like, "But dude, you're like a super good climber. Like I see you climb all the time. Like how did you fall? You climb in the rain. Like how would you? That's an easy climb you fell from. It doesn't make sense." And then Bran's like, "I don't know what to tell you, dude. But I'm like, is it true that I'm paralyzed?" And he's like not thrilled that like. His legs don't work anymore. He's like, "I'd rather be dead." And Tom's like, "Yeah." No, I'm just kidding. He's like, "Don't ever say that." Okay, and now we're back we're at the King's Landing entrance in the next scene. Kat and Santa are just arriving, and they're met by two like Secret Service guards, and they're like, "We've been instructed to escort you into the city." And Kat's like, "No, you don't get to tell." And they're like, they lead her to the meth addict's room. Peter Hahn. He's hanging out with like
No.
He's hanging out with like 20 naked women. And he Chris Tuckers them. He's like, "Zzz, like leave." Chris Tucker from The Fifth Element. But he's like, "Nah, dude. I heard you were coming and thought you need a place to lay low. Like, it's cool. Yeah, I'm not gonna make you into a whore." Like, because that's kind of what she's thinking. She's like, "How'd you know I was coming?" And Uncle Fester walks in, and he's like, "That's a story for another time." So
yes,
apparently there's like a network of like emails happening amongst these two, because we find out later that Peter also has like insight to like other stuff like before anybody else does. He asks to see the fancy dagger. Santa pulls it out and hands it to him, and it's the Valerian steel thing, the dragon bone. He doesn't know whose it is, but the meth addict does. It's his. But he lost it in a tournament to Tyrion, I think. I don't. Did he lose to Tyrion in a tournament?
No.
Is that what he's saying? Because I was gonna say, dude, he sucks if he did.
That's, Jamie lost to the Knight of the Flowers at jousting, and Peter had bet on Jamie, so he lost the dagger to
Okay.
gambled.
Okay, so now we're like, oh shit, Tyrion's the one that ordered that's like what us as the viewer are meant to believe, I think. Okay, so now we're in a different scene. We're at the Night Watch White Wall. Tyrion and a guy, who turns out to be Mormon. They're watching Jon Snow train with a bunch of. They're standing around in a courtyard of a barracks, and Jon Snow and a whole bunch of other like new hires, I guess, are kind of like training down in the middle of the courtyard. But it's really just like Jon Snow is standing in the center of like a circle. It's like hazing style. And each one's coming in and like attacking him one at a time. And Jon is like clearly way better at fighting than, like, these guys don't know how to fight. He's like kicking their ass like easily. And it's like brutal too. It's not like playful sparring. He's like breaking their noses. Like people's faces are bloody. I'm pretty sure he straight up like chucks a dude with one arm. Like, he throws a guy like 5 feet. So that's what's happening down there. Tyrion and Commander Mormont, who we later find out is Jonah Mormont's dad, I'm assuming.
Yes.
I think that's what's implied. It's never said, but I'm pretty sure that's who he is. They continue to watch from above. Mormon is at odds with his taskmaster, who's overseeing Jon and the other man. He's like, he's not like he's not pleased with his training, the way he's like training the men, or either that, or he's hoping he can train them quickly. I don't know. I wasn't sure what he was getting at there. And then he gives Tyrion a note about Bran. Tyrion asks if it's good news, and Mormon's like, both. So the word about Bran is being spread. Back in King's Landing, Ned Stark also gets a note brought in by a raven. I like how everything is just like a raven came in this morning with a note. It's also a note that we never see the note, but presumably it's saying his son is awoken and he's paralyzed or something. I don't know how detailed the note. The meth addict walks in, Peter, and he already knows exactly what the note says. And he's also like, perhaps you'd like to share the news with your wife. So, and Ned's like, what are you talking about? She's in Winterfell. And he's like, or is she? And then he walks away. He's being all like weird. But then in the next scene, the meth addict brings him to a brothel and is like, your wife's in here, bitch. No. And Ned thinks he's being like pranked, and he starts strangling meth guy, Peter. But like Kat pops her head out from the window above and is like, no, it's cool. I'm here. Check me out. And also, this is in my notes. This is where I'm like, Meth Head's name is Peter, and he's also known as Littlefinger. So, and that is the end of Chapter 2, Justice for Bran, Part 1. All right, what do you guys have to say about that section?
Got him with the whorehouse prank. The classic prank.
That would have been such a good. This is like the third moment where like Ned's getting like pranked or whatever. Where he's like, "What, dude? You're calling my wife a whore, dude? This is going too far."
I wrote down some really quick notes. The first is that this is where the famous quote, "My sweet summer child," comes from, and I had no idea. I don't know. I run across that quote all the time online. This being the scene with Bran where the witch, that's what I referred to her as in my notes. The witch who was telling Bran all these horror stories. With the with the delivery of like a practiced Shakespearean actress.
Oh my god, yeah, she's good at stories.
I love that.
Damn, that lady was serving. But she refers to Bran as my sweet summer child, and I think that phrase existed outside of Game of Thrones. I don't think that phrase is exclusive, but Game of Thrones, to my understanding, is where that phrase was popularized. And I see it all the time online. So, I also thought it was really funny that Catelyn Stark.
Oh, you're correct. By the way, I just chat GPT'd. The phrase "my sweet summer child" comes from George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire book series, and then probably popularized by the show. And so correct. You're correct.
Well, thank you. I've finally contributed something to the podcast.
And the lady. Okay, I also learned the old woman's name is Old Nan.
Old Nan.
Nan. Old Nan.
Is she a Stark?
Yes. Well, she's House Stark, but I don't know if it's defined or not.
I don't know. Yeah, It doesn't say here.
But that actress, who played Old Nan, I think she maybe has like a bit of another scene, but she passed away immediately after.
Whoa!
And that was like her last little acting gig.
Oh no!
And I'm
And what
glad
a
you
gig it
talked
was.
about like the Shakespearean thing because he really does nail it, and I like the camera how it zooms in slowly on her when she's creeping him out, and
I was
Brandon has
happy.
like this look of terror on his face, and she's like, "Is this the sort of story that you like?" And he's like, "Yes." It's like
He's like, that was really good. That was really well told. I'm scared, but that was good.
yeah.
10 out of 10.
I was expecting her to disappear in a puff of smoke, like a poltergeist. She was serving, man. Speaking of phrases that I thought were really interesting, back alley Sally. When Caitlin Stark's talking to meth addict, that who we're referring to Littlefinger as meth
yes.
addict.
Yes.
When he brings her, he escorts her to the whorehouse, and she says something along the lines of like, "You think me a back alley Sally?" I don't know what that means. Well, I think I know what it means, and I want to use it from now on.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It's a good one.
Also, yes. Also, the other note that I had here is every royalty. You know how every royalty has a title? They'll be like, "I am Ned Stark, right hand of the king." I wrote down Caitlin Stark, MILF Queen, Queen of Future MILFs. That's her official title in my book. So,
Right on.
love her. Right on, right on.
I
That's about it.
I thought you were
didn't
gonna be
have a
like.
lot to say.
I thought you were gonna say Caitlin Stark, back alley Sally. No.
Back alley Sally, MILF Queen, Queen of Future MILFs.
Queen of Future MILFs.
Damn. So
Anyway.
you're saying Sansa and Arya? No, I'm just. Anyway, we don't have to go into details. All right, JoJo, what do you got?
Okay, all right. So going back to Rob's entrance, and he talks to Brandon. I think this is the only interaction that they have in the series. But he talks to Brandon, and he tells her, "Oh, what's Nan been telling you?" And he says, "Told me once that the sky is blue because we live in a blue-eyed giant named Macumba." Which
Oh
I
yeah.
think there are fan theories out there that they have this outside knowledge or myth around George R. Martin being Macumba. So they're actually like, not breaking the wall, but hinting at it. You know,
Just the writer. Oh, yeah. That's.
yeah.
I like that. That's cool.
I thought that was pretty fun. But I'm sad because Brandon, as he's lying there, he's just like, "I'd rather be dead," and Rob has no way to console him. You kind of leave that scene with them. And man, this is a very upsetting moment.
Well, he's kind of like, no, don't ever think that, like stuff like. He says one of that, but it is like, yeah. I mean, we're all thinking it like, yeah, that would suck. I don't know.
If I skip all the way to like the interaction between Peter and Ned, kind of see like Ned's no nonsense kind of come out again, and he just immediately takes action, which is, I think I can appreciate it, but he's very brutish in this way that he just like grabs and chokes Peter, without like assessing anything, and then
He
Peter's
does
like,
do that.
Yeah.
He escalates very quickly.
It does. It kind of. I think it's one of those things that makes him more relatable to Robert, and why Robert would be so like familiar with him as a buddy, as a brother, as a friend, because they're both men of this like innate action that's based on war. Their war selves pop up every once in a while, but Peter has that quote that's like Stark's, slow minds, quick tempers. I don't know if that actually. I don't know if that actually fits within all the Starks, but I'm willing to try and apply it to all of them to just as we're watching this feel out. Like, oh yeah, they are quick.
Yeah.
And
It just kind of. It also gives us like an insight as to like why. It's probably like the reason he's in the position he's in, like in the position of power. It's just like.
Yes.
Yeah, but it is very very brutish, very like you don't fuck with this at all ever. immediately. Like, we're moving on to chapter 3, Justice for Bran Part 2. I separated the Bran stuff into 2 parts because otherwise it would have been like 15 scenes in a row of me talking. So, all right. But also some different stuff happens other than the Bran stuff in this chapter. So, okay, now we're back at the White Wall. Jon is racking up his weapons and gets jumped by the dudes he beat up like earlier. They're going. It looks like they're about to like kill him. They like one of them puts a knife up to his throat, and then I never get the sense that they're actually gonna do. I don't know. Just by the way Jon is acting, he seems super chill about it. Like even he's like, they're not gonna actually. It doesn't seem like they're gonna do it, right? But then Tyrion walks in, and he's like, "You better stop, or I'll sick Megan Fox on you. Like you don't want." They're like, "Oh no, not Megan Fox." So they kill him. No, I'm just kidding. And then Jon feels like his father doesn't care about him because. Well, let me go back to the Tyrion walks in. He like says a bunch of stuff. He's like, I'm the queen's, or the sister is my queen, and like you don't want to kill Jon. Some bad things will happen to you if you do that. So you better step off. And so they do. And then Jon feels like his father. He talks to Jon. Tyrion and Jon talk. Jon feels like his father doesn't care about him because he didn't really tell him the truths about the White Wall, and like serving there. Only Tyrion did. So now, I don't know. Tyrion's the only one that is. Maybe Tyrion's more of a father figure to him. I don't know. I don't know what he's implying by saying only you told me the truth or whatever. Tyrion tells him some brief stories about why the other men are there. He's trying to like show Jon that like as bad as his story seems, or his dad's story seems, like the other guys like relationships with their fathers are way worse. So I think that's what he's trying to do by saying that stuff. He also, this is like one of those shows where like I know like writers do a thing where you have to do a thing as a writer where like assume your readers are like smarter, like readers are smart or something like that. Not me. I need the shit spelled out for me, dude. There's a lot of subtext going on. Especially when I'm high and watching this. All right, so he tells him those stories, and then he also gives him the Bran note. He's like, "Oh, by the way, Bran is better." So that's cool. And that's the end of that scene. Back in King's Landing, Meth Head Peter is telling them that it's Peter, Cat, and Ned are in Peter's little hideout room in the brothel. And Peter's like, dude, they're gonna kill you if you start talking trash about the Lannisters trying to kill Bran. Like, that's treason. And then they're like, yeah. And then he's also like, I'll do what I can to keep you alive. But apparently he's Kat's old friend, so she trusts him. And he's like, don't tell anyone that. I have a reputation to maintain. So he's like, I'm not friends with anybody. What are you talking about? Back in Cersei's room, which looks like a room on the Titanic. Anyway, Homelander walks in. Cersei is mad at him for pushing Bran off the tower. It's been like months since that happened. They've never talked about it since then. Like, I don't know. Apparently they have. Oh, that's what I wrote. Luckily for them, Bran doesn't remember anything, at least not yet. And Jaime's like, well, we'll kill him. Like, who cares? And then she slaps him in the face. And he's like, hell yeah, dude. I like slaps. Or no, he doesn't say that. And then Bran, he says if Bran says anything, he'll kill him. And he'll kill Ned. And he'll kill everybody in the world if he has to. I don't know. That's just some like boyfriend talk, I feel like. What's he going to do? Ride the month-long trip back to Winterfell to, like kill... Anyway.
Wasn't it 8 months or something?
Is it 8? It's a long time. That's all. Yeah, damn.
Yeah.
So, anyway. Okay, Ned, in the next scene, Ned sees Kat off at King's Landing. She's already leaving. It's a short visit. She's yeah, she has to head back. She can't even say hi to like her kids. Like this is all on the down low. Like no one can know she was ever there, basically. And then she tells Ned, she's like, I swear to God, it's the Lannisters. Like they're bad. And I don't know. It's not clear if he like believes her or not. But he's like, we don't have proof though. Like I don't know. And even if he does get proof, all he can really do is like show it to Robert and hope he's like still a bro, you know. Like that's the best thing. Like hopefully he'll act upon it. But I think even he's like kind of implying like even Robert, I can show Robert, but he's not really. Okay, so now in the next scene we're in Rob's cafeteria. He's drinking wine, eating some good food, and they're talking about their first kills with Commander Mr. Rogers from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Yes!
I don't know this guy's name.
Oh, beautiful.
The scene starts off with Rob saying like, do you remember your first time? And so because he's like a bro, you're like, oh, they're talking about like sex. But no, they're talking about their first kill. The first time. Oh man, I didn't say. Like you assume he's talking about his first time doing the old Tokyo Sandblaster. But no.
Oh.
But no. Also,
you guys remember your first time doing the old Tokyo Sandblaster?
I mean, I'm not going to talk about it, but it was terrible. That's all I'll say.
No. Oh no.
I feel like that's everybody's story. Like honestly, that's like the popular. That's what I found. Anyway, I'm not going to like. Let's not go down that. But no, they're talking about the first time they've killed a guy in battle, and then he like runs out of wine, and he yells at his squire boy, who is Link from Zelda: A Link to the Past. He just like unnecessarily like yells at this kid. He's like, well, go get some wine then. Go get more, bitch. And he leaves. Link leaves. And like as he leaves, Rob sees Jamie, who's standing outside. He's standing outside, like standing guard, and he tells him to come in. He makes fun of him for being a glorified security guard, and then he asks him about his first kill. So he shares his first kill, and then Rob also asks him about killing Aerys Targaryen, who is the king he killed. Jamie's known as like the Kingslayer, which I think is it's a cool term. It's a cool name, but also it probably implies he's gonna kill more kings in the future. So yeah, he's like, what did Aerys Targaryen say before you stabbed him in the back? And Jamie was like, he the same thing he was saying for like the 30 minutes or whatever. I forget what he says, but he said burn them all. He was saying Aerys was saying burn them all before, which I don't know what that means. Burn all the Lannisters, maybe. And then Jamie just straight up excuses himself, which I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's like a punishable offense, but he just like walks out. And that's the end of that scene. That's the end of that chapter. Right on. Anything to say about that last couple of scenes?
I had a quick question about those scenes. The one you referred to has Link from Zelda.
Yes.
That was a Lannister, wasn't it?
Yes, that it was. I think they do say in that scene it's like Jamie's like
Lancel
cousin or something is mentioned to imply they're related. I forget.
What's the deal with him? Jojo, you're our resident Game of Thrones expert. What's the deal?
Lancel Lannister is the cupbearer for King Robert. He is the cousin of Jaime and Cersei. So he's in that same lineage of Lannisters. But yeah, he's just a cupbearer at this point, and he's like Robert's little footstool, or he just kicks him around. And I like that scene because it describes Robert's kind of detest for the Lannisters.
Yeah.
He says, everywhere I look, they got their smug, satisfied faces and their blonde hair, So Lancel, he makes fun of him. He's like, who named you, half what.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he does make fun of his name.
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah,
But, like,
and this poor,
it was an
poor
interesting-
kid.
It was an interesting scene to me, though, because the Lannisters are all about their pride, and that was the least prideful thing I'd ever seen regarding their houses. Just kind of
Yeah.
gets brushed over.
Yeah. It's funny because you don't see the Lannisters in a like subjugated or like a servant kind of role, except for this one kid, you know.
Oh,
and I
poor
guess it's
guy.
because he's on the hierarchy, he's on the lower end, but he has to still do his duty.
And then also with
Yeah.
Jamie, though, it's also like the first time we're seeing Jamie he just stands out in front of that door all day. Like that's his job. Like this is the
Yeah.
first time we see him in that light as well. Like so.
Yeah. And I love that because as soon as he enters in, he's like Robert makes a point of pointing that out. He's like, it must really irk you to be out there a glorified bodyguard while I sit here and I just poop and eat and bone things.
Oh,
You know.
it's true.
Yeah.
You know, he's like Jamie is. That is all of that is stewing in his head. It reminds me of the dead days at Legoland when I would just be standing around at the stand.
It's exactly the
Just staring
same.
out for hours, just like I don't.
Right.
I can't do. I'm in prison right now.
Yeah,
Anyway.
you're watching everybody else in Legoland having fun and riding rides, eating popcorn and ice cream.
Standing there. Yeah, I think though this is like one of the times that Jamie does get a little verbal joust over another character, because up until this point he's maybe had an interaction with Jon Snow who he completely just dusts, and then Ned Stark, who I think, like I said, Ned wins over him, and then he comes into the King himself and he's able to like say, oh, he's saying the Mad King said what you've been saying this entire time, burn them all. He equates Robert Baratheon, the king, to the Mad King, and that is grounds for like a beheading, because that's essentially like a treasonous statement. And I think it speaks on Robert's behalf that he has a sort of restraint, you know. He does have restraint despite him being like the brutish warlord kind of thing. He's not gonna have Jamie's head chopped off or whatever.
Yeah. I wonder if he thinks they're just chilling. They're just like, this is just a fun, we're just hanging out. I don't think he realizes how serious Jamie is trying to be. Maybe he is. I don't know. But because he does let him, he says that and then he walks out. It's like 2 treasonous acts in a row. I feel like the leaving without being dismissed is like that's not a thing. Like imagine, again, at Legoland, you're talking to like our boss, and like mid conversation you just like leave. I don't know.
Oh.
It's just like you just like not a thing you do at a job like, you know, environment.
You want to know how similar to Game of Thrones working at Legoland was? The regional manager showed up one day, and she had a guest with her, and it was the CFO. I didn't know it was the CFO, and I asked her. I was like, oh, I haven't met you before. What do you do? She said, oh, I'm the CFO. And I was like, oh, like the regional CFO? No, CFO of the whole company. And I went, oh! And then I immediately curtsied and said, Your Majesty, forgive me.
Oh my god.
Oh wow, that's funny.
Every time that happened to me, I would just be like, oh, cool. I don't know. I did not care.
I do have some quick thoughts on
Yes.
this before we move on, because let's see. Oh, we got Barristan Selmy, who is Mr. Rogers, and the notable little nod of the hat that Jamie gives to him, where he's like, you know, I saw you battle this one guy. It was the best move I'd ever seen, which kind of speaks to Sir Barristan Selmy's level of skill. Like Jamie looks up to him. Like this is his. Jeff Watts, if that's a reference.
Oh, yes.
Is Sir
Or
Lawrence
his-
Almatsdama. No, I don't know.
Peter Hahn.
Exactly. His yeah. And so
His idol.
they're just
Yeah.
yeah. And I like that little nod of the hat. But I think there's another scene in here that I wanted to touch on was Kat and Ned and their interaction. Get to see them as as he's leaving her. They have a very tender moment and they're connecting and it's very loving. But in relation to the scene that had just previously passed, which was Jaime and Cersei, you get this wonderful contrast of character dynamics where Jaime and Cersei feel very aggressive and very lustful versus Ned and Kat, who feel very tender and very sincere in their love. And I think these contrasts in scenes happen quite frequently, and we kind of glossed over Arya. But with Arya and Ned, you have him nurturing her in a direct parallel to Cersei nurturing Joffrey, because Joffrey's being nurtured to cater to his selfish needs, whereas Ned is nurturing Arya, even though he hands her a sword and he virtually gives her the element of violence that Joffrey is playing at. He still says, like, you're going to use this to defend or be a part of the family, because what are our words? Winter is coming, and it's going to take everybody. It's going to take all of us depending on each other to survive that coming storm. And so it's a parallel, but it's like on the spectrum, they are the opposite of Cersei and Joffrey, and I like the contrast in the storytelling in this episode. I think it's a strong point. If the episode wasn't as exciting, it has some beautiful character moments like that.
All right, Chapter 4. Daenerys is on top. That's what I named this one.
Yes.
Okay. So now we're in a different scene. It's a cloudy day. Some wind sweeps through an endless field of like tall marijuana plants, and that's what they look like. And Dothraki caravan led by, I thought it was Cal at first, but it's just some Dothraki guy is leading this caravan through the field towards an unknown destination. They're just traveling. They're just like nomads, right? They just travel for a while and then set up camp somewhere, and then they ride comfortably on.
I think they are nomadic, but I'm under the impression that they are going somewhere specific right now.
Yeah, it does. It seems like that for sure. Yeah, but as of now, we don't really know. They ride comfortably on horses while their slaves walk next to them. And Daenerys and Jonah Mormon they're close to the front. They ride together. Daenerys asks about the slaves and where they come from. And Jonah is just like, most people are so afraid of the Dothraki horde that when they ride through their towns, they just like offer up slaves to them as gifts. And then one of the slaves just gets like whipped in the face randomly.
Oh no!
And then Daenerys orders everyone to stop because she's the Khaleesi. She's like, I'm the queen. Technically, I can do they have to do what I say, right? And then they do. So she gets off her horse and walks into the marijuana field to, I don't know, take a piss. She's just getting some fresh air. I don't know. And then Andy Dick, I thought she was going to get lost. I thought that's what was going to, because, I don't know, that's what happens in a Love, Death, and Robots episode, is like people get lost in these like tall cornfields or whatever. But no, everyone knows exactly, that's not what happens. Andy Dick appears out of nowhere on his horse, and he's like pissed at her and threatens her. I forget about what, but because she's the Khaleesi, her guards immediately attack and subdue Andy Dick. I don't know his name anymore. Viserys. Daenerys eventually orders them to stop strangling him, and Viserys is like, kill them, kill that man for attacking me. But he quickly finds out, like, no one cares about him. Like, and then, yeah, they pretty much ignore him when he's like, stop him. And now he has to walk with the slaves. They just continue, and he's meant to walk with the slaves. And that was chapter 4. 3 scenes. Anything to say about those scenes?
Yes, the Dothraki, 10 out of 10 style. That tank top she's rocking, That could be designer.
That is pretty cool. I just like how she's totally accepted she's using her power as the queen, like immediately. She's like, I have all this. Oh shit, I have power now.
Yeah.
And that
I felt such a breath of fresh air when the Dothraki appeared. I don't even know exactly what it was. I think I was having a little bit of a difficult time this episode, and then when they showed up, I went, oh, yes. And then
yeah, I would have to agree with that. I do like the Daenerys Dothraki. I think it's just because, okay, if I was saying Cersei's thing is every time she talks, she says like something messed up. Jaime, every time he says something, it's kind of like a bullying thing. Daenerys, every time they show Daenerys, it's something sexual happens. But nothing really in this scene. In this scene, nothing really happens, so that kind of like goes against my theory for that. But I'm paying attention to that though. I am kind of like attributing each character to like a certain style of thing that happens whenever they're on screen, and I'm just interested in seeing how my theories play out with that.
I mean, you're not wrong. Maybe not in this specific scene, but if I can jump ahead to like the next scene,
we're not jumping ahead.
Oh, yeah.
But you're right. Okay. Yeah, I would assume they can't do. Yeah, nothing like really sexual in this scene happens. But I'm assuming that's gonna happen with every character. They can't always just like be one note, I guess. But but is there anything that can be implied here though? Sexual.
Whip, I guess.
Yeah, maybe the whip. Maybe the whip.
I think just her sense of fashion, man. She is serving it. She could walk down a catwalk in that tank top, win the contest.
Hell yeah. You got anything, JoJo?
No, I was just gonna. Well, a tiny little note on Viserys having to walk. Like you see this entitled little shit.
Yeah.
Kind of being put in his place. He thinks he's in charge. He's got that sense of entitlement that Joffrey does, but then they're like, "No, you're gonna have to walk." He has no power.
Yeah,
it's sad.
This is a big moment for actually, him as a character, for sure. Like this is the moment he's like, "Oh, I actually am. They don't care about me at all. I don't matter." Up until this point, he's like, "I'm gonna be the king, Mormon. You're gonna be treated awesomely." I'm in total control of Daenerys. She has to do whatever I say. Like, and then this is where he finds out, oh, like none of that's true. So it's kind of like depressing for him. I'm sure he's going through it mentally in this moment.
Oh yeah.
But he's such a dick that like he's Andy Dick that you're like, yeah, you deserve this, dude. This is you had this coming. All right. Okay, that was chapter 4. Daenerys is on top. And now we move on to chapter 5. And I called this one, Maybe the White Walkers Are Real. All right, so back on the White Wall, it's like super cold, and Mr. Jon Snow, he puts on a nice parka and goes for a little like walk around the barracks. And he takes a ski lift to the top of the wall. And it's like a 1,000-foot tall elevator powered by like one dude. So I hope there's some good safety mechanisms.
That made me very nervous watching that. I was very nervous. Because
like if this guy, I think it's definitely played for that as well. It's like if this guy gets tired, that elevator drops pretty far. Like I'm assuming there is some sort of mechanism that maybe like stops it if it maybe, I don't know, but it's still scary. It's not like the best made elevator, I would assume. All right, and then on the top of the wall, Jon finds Uncle Benjen, and they just kind of chill. They piss off the side of the wall together. They don't. But as they piss, Benjen says he's a Power Ranger, and he has to go into the woods tomorrow. Jon's like, cool, I want to go too. And Benjen's like, no, you're an asshole, dumbass. You don't get to go, idiot. Your name is Dookie Shoes. You don't get to go. You're new. And then also Benjen mentions they've been getting strange reports from the woods. Probably people have been talking about like White Walker sightings. What are the wildlings? Are they just like people that live in the woods? Are they just like... Okay.
Yeah.
They're just humans, right?
Yes.
Okay. They're like the feral... They're like, feral people
Exactly.
in the...
Exactly.
They are people. Yeah, they're people that live outside of the. Slab City. They're like the Slab City people.
Oh yeah. Well, they
live in a lawless land.
Apparently, there are a lot of like a lot of horror stories are born out of like people seeing like probably feral people in the woods. Anyway. Okay, meanwhile, Tyrion is in the mess hall talking to Walter White. He's the Night Watch recruiter.
Oh, no. No.
They're talking about eating weird stuff. Walter is a funny man, and he's eaten bear's balls. Tyrion has eaten Cubans. And then Benjen comes in and he's all business. He just like immediately sits down and he's like, he doesn't seem to like Tyrion. He like he's like, all you do is party all the time while we protect your ass, dumb fat guy. He says something. Anyway, Tyrion says he doesn't believe in the white. He doesn't believe in the White Walkers or ghouls, and Benjen is like, well, I do, and then he leaves. And then, Benjen he's basically also saying like goodbye because he's gonna be a Power Ranger for the next month in the woods. And then Tyrion invites Walter White to ride with him on their way back to King's Landing because they're both going there anyways. They might as well like party on the way back. And that's the end of chapter 5. Only, again, another short one. Do you guys have anything to say about that?
I have an acting note that I like.
Okay.
With Tyrion sitting down in the brothel, he's leaning up against the table. He has this smile on that you don't see in any of the other scenes, in any of the other episodes. And it's not that it's forced, but I think it's a character choice that he makes. It kind of makes Tyrion feel confident but entitled, and the same Lannister aspects that all these other Cersei and Jaime and Joffrey have. But it's almost like a forced smile, like he's trying to placate to this guy who's grubby and whatnot. Or I don't know. I don't know if he's really enjoying himself. But I like that because it's Tyrion at the height of Tyrion, I think, and then he starts to like kind of ease off of that. But their whole interaction is funny, and the guy's name is Yoren, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we should just hang out and we'll visit the best brothels and stuff."
And is he ever like, "You're an asshole"? No, I'm just kidding.
Probably. I mean, they can make that kind of joke. Yeah,
I feel like he would. That character would be the guy.
Yeah. But I think it kind of speaks to Tyrion. Like he's able to charm pretty much anybody, even people. And then when Benjen comes in, he gets butting of heads. But he's even like, he even gets the win. He tries to get the win at the end of it by like, I think that guy's starting to like me.
Yeah, Tyrion has kind of Tyrion stands out from the Lannisters for sure. Like he's like he's a little more self-aware, but he also does have the moments where he is a Lannister. He still does have like a sense of like pride in there, and he uses it. But I think he also believes it to a certain extent. Like it is kind of like he does have a little bit of Jaime in him at some times. It's very subtle, but Not to the extent that Jaime has it. I don't know. He's like the good Lannister, but there's still Lannister in him for sure. So
yeah,
I think he does a good job of like selling that.
I also like the way this scene is staged. With Tyrion has a close up, and his image of himself is nestled in the fire, and then when you cut to Benjen, who is probably the only character that Dave got his name right.
He's a Power Ranger.
Yeah. When they cut to Benjen, he's off to the side, but also the window is casting this cold light, and you can see the drifting like elements of snow, this coldness like traveling, gliding in through, and it like cuts across him. But the two contrasts are like the world they're living in, because Benjen represents this rough, harsh nature, this reality of Westeros that's cold, and then Tyrion in his entitled sensibilities is stuck in this warmth of the world. You know, he's got comfort, he's got all the means to survive without even trying, and so I like that visual there during their conversation.
Oh yeah, yeah. Benjen is definitely. He's definitely like a no nonsense type of guy for sure, except for with
This
Jon.
was the scene. This was the scene where Tyrion was called plump, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I was watching. Sometimes, guys, I like to talk to my television. I like to talk to the characters. I don't know. Maybe they need to hear something. Maybe I'm lonely. I don't know. But Tyrion gets called plump, and I say out loud, "Is Tyrion plump?" And then, not but a second later, Tyrion says, "Am I plump?" And I just thought that was a nice moment between me and Tyrion.
Yeah.
I love when stuff like that happens. When I'm like thinking a thing and then they like say what I'm thinking in the podcast or whatever.
Yes.
Right. Or they like answer your question immediately. You're like, oh crap, okay.
All right. So that was a short chapter. I just try to group things in that like seem related. So sometimes it's like two scenes. So now we're in chapter 6. Daenerys is Praegers. So back with the Dothraki. I gotta learn how to title these without like spoiling everything. But anyway, back with the Dothraki, Daenerys is getting her hair braided while simultaneously learning to speak Dothraki. The like slave girl braiding her hair like just grabs her boob and she's like, "You're pregnant in your boobs." No, I'm just kidding.
Yep.
But
He sure did that.
that's that scene. I mean, Daenerys is like, "What, dude? I'm pregnant. Oh shit!" And then we move on to the next scene. Jonah Mormon is hanging out with the son of Andy Samberg and Eric Andre. They're in a different hut. They're talking about swords and stuff, like which ones are good for killing on a horse versus which ones are just good for like stabbing a dude through armor. And then the scenes they're just talking about like armor and blades, and then we find out, and then Jonah Mormon just drops like, "I betrayed my father," just and he may or may not feel bad about it. It's like, wait, dude, we're talking about swords, like way to bring the mood down. But yeah, that's an important character moment, I guess. This is like that's the time where I put it together. Like, oh, the guy at the wall is his dad, probably. All right, so Daenerys's slave comes in and is like, the Khaleesi is like, she's tired of eating Taco Bell. Can we get some Burger King for her tonight? Maybe, like, I don't know. And then she also tells him that she's pregnant. And I didn't have a good way to like put this in, but I just want to say the slave girl looks like Ana de Armas mixed with George Costanza from Seinfeld. So that's what she looks like.
What?
Jonah seems to, because she has like a receding hairline kind of. So Jonah seems a bit taken aback by the pregnant news, and he immediately is like, I need to ride for Kohar tonight or whatever. And then he leaves. And that's the end of chapter 6. What was that, 2 scenes? All right, anything to say about that?
I may or may not, you decide, listeners, be watching Game of Thrones in a totally legit and paid for way. But hypothetically, if I wasn't, There may or may not have been captions during all of the scenes where the Dothraki were speaking. There were no captions. I didn't know what they were saying.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
They didn't, because that feels like something that should have been like baked into the episode. So like they somehow removed those.
Wow.
Oh yeah,
I had
because
to figure it out through. Yes.
it should be. Yeah, I should say like in that scene where Jonah and Andy Samberg's son are talking, it's all in Dothraki. So yeah.
Yes. I had to figure out those scenes through context clues. I will say it was really nice when they would occasionally switch to English. They'd be like speaking Dothraki and then pregnant, like ha 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 ha. I know what they're saying.
Yeah, interesting.
It's funny that you mention that because I think one of the ongoing jokes with like the Dothraki and Jorah's like the what do you call it? The whipping boy, or he's the butt of the joke when it comes to Westerosi knights, because they're always like, "Oh, you're wearing dresses. You know, what are with these metal dresses that you're wearing?" And so part of the conversation that they're having is the guy is asking about his armor, but he calls it a dress.
Yeah.
And then Jorah has to correct him. He's like, "No, it's called armor." And then that becomes like a little thing that they touch on every once in a while, but it's only ever with Jorah's character. It's never
that's
applied
funny.
it's never applied to any of the other characters. So I feel bad for him in that regard, because he's a respectful knight. But in this scene, he also like when he hears that she's pregnant, he decides to like leave. Like, what's the deal with that?
Yeah, I'm assuming he has to like warn somebody, or I don't know. It is funny. I hope is the dress thing played? I hope it's played like this. Because in this scene he doesn't seem too offended. He's just like, no, it's not a dress. Like, I hope he continually gets like more and more offended. Like, it's not a dress. Like, eventually, does he ever do that? I told you it's not a dress.
Yeah, no, I wish that happened, but no, he doesn't ever lean into it that way.
Yeah, he's pretty cool about it, but he is like, no, it's totally not it's not a dress, dude, idiot.
Yeah, it protects you from dying.
All right, all right, chapter 7. This one is called "No, seriously, White Walkers are real, and we all need to be scared." And that's okay. This is the final chapter of the episode. So back at the White Wall Barracks, Jon is once again training with the boys. And Tyrion watches from above. They're doing the same thing as they were in the first scene, where they're in a circle, like a training circle. They're coming in one at a time, attacking Jon. But this time it's like a little more friendly. Like, Jon is actually training them. They seem to be listening. Jon's being like more encouraging too. He's like, you shouldn't stand still, move a little more. And then he's like, but you're moving too much. Like, you're gonna get tired, or I don't know. No one's noses are broken. So I don't know. They've warmed up. Either they've warmed up to each other off screen, or the other guys are afraid of like Megan Fox. Yeah. So
or just getting their butt kicks by Jon.
Is it true? Yeah. Yeah, they don't want to. Yeah, it probably hurts. Yeah. So, okay. So Tyrion goes back up. He's in the hall with Old Man Mormon, and then also blind Jeremiah Watkins, who kind of sounds like Dumbledore. I'm assuming he's blind. Sounds like Dumbledore, though. He's like, oh, the Dementors. I don't know.
Yeah, the actor is really blind, actually.
Okay, because he's just like staring up at the ceiling. And yeah, they're talking about what maybe they're talking about like what will happen when winter comes, because it's going to be a long winter, and they're like, we got to start like taking this like kind of seriously. Like, everyone's talking about White Walkers. Like, I know we haven't seen them in a while, but that one guy, he got his head chopped off, and he was talking about White Walkers up until the point, like, his head was You know, if your head's about to get cut off, you might be like, I was joking, or whatever. But anyway, Tyrion is still like making jokes, calling them. He's like, no, you're stupid. They don't exist. It's mermaids exist if that's the case, or I don't know. Which in this world, maybe mermaids do exist. I don't know what's possible in this universe. But they're like, well, we don't. That's you can believe that, but we need to prepare for this, and maybe ask Megan Fox to help us out. We could use some help from Megan Fox. And then now we're back. So that's that scene. It looks like Tyrion himself by the end of that scene is like, oh shit, maybe they're serious about this White Walker stuff. It kind of like zooms in on his face at the end of the scene, and he's like, I don't know what to believe. Maybe they're right. Back in the Dothraki camp, Daenerys and Cal cuddle near their like dragon eggs, and Daenerys starts talking to him in Dothraki, and Cal's like, oh, bro, dude, what? I can understand you. And she tells him like it's gonna be a boy, like she's pregnant, gonna be a boy, and he's still like, bro, whoa. And then that's that scene. That's the end of that scene. Back on the White Wall, it's nighttime, and Tyrion actually is taking a piss off the side of the wall. And then Jon is there too to say goodbye because Tyrion is leaving. I don't know, either that night, it's nighttime. He's either leaving at night or early in the morning the next day. I don't know. And then Jon tells him to tell Bran he misses him because he's going to stop at Winterfell on the way back. That's it. That's that scene. And then in King's Landing, Arya begins her sword training with Adam Sandler doing a Spanish accent.
I wrote Borat.
Okay. He keeps calling her boy, and then they train with like wooden swords. He's very theatrical. They do a drill where he tells her to like try and stab him. She isn't able to. She's bad at swords. He's able to like easily. He's clearly a very good swordsman. And then Ned watches from the doorway, like happy to see his daughter just having a good time or whatever. Or he's watching like her beginning of her journey as a swords woman. But then he begins to remember how brutal war can be and like how painful it is to die via blade. I mean, that's what I'm implying. That's kind of what he remembers, like the sounds of battle. Dying isn't fun from a sword. I'm assuming that's what he's thinking. And he's probably like imagining her dying in battle via sword. And that is
that. Poor guy was having some.
Yeah, definitely some some PTSD type of flashback going on right there.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And yeah, that's the end of that episode. Boom. Dun, 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 dun. And before I get your guys' thoughts, let me just go over like the main things that happened in this episode. Ned made it to King's Landing safely. Ned and his kids. Bran is alive but paralyzed. Kat makes it to King's Landing she makes it to King's Landing and her friend Peter helps her and Ned out. I don't think they really accomplish much, if I'm being honest. But Daenerys is Prager's, and then winter is actually coming, and everyone should be afraid. So that's what happened in this episode.
Oh, I don't have much to say. Just that that guy Borat, that's what I referred to him as in my notes, the sword instructor. He gives big drag queen energy. What a drama queen.
Really?
Oh, yeah. My goodness. I enjoyed every second that he was on screen.
I liked him, but that entire last section, it felt a little out of place to me. It was just all of a sudden this is a kids show, or that's kind of what it felt like. But maybe it did offer a little, because the rest of the episode was kind of a little dark in tone, I would say. Like all the subject matter is pretty dark-ish. So maybe this was their way of like, I don't know, this is our relief. we got to have some fun at some point, right? I don't know.
I like how this episode demonstrates John's prowess as a swordsman, because you get a little bit that he's been practicing at home in the first episode. I don't think it's addressed in the second episode. In this one, he's kicking butt. He's like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I like, he's got some skill. And then when it comes to Tyrion talking to Maester Aemon or Dumbledore, and then and Old Man Mormont, I think the more the catalyst for them being so serious about winter coming and for needing help from Cersei is the wildlings, because there were reports of the wildlings coming over, crossing, finding a way over, and so now these rangers have always been out to protect the wall and stay aware of things happening, but they're noticing the wildlings doing something. And so even though the White Walkers are a thing and they've been noted, they're still secondary on this hierarchy of importance. And Maester Aemon makes it a point of saying, like, we still need more men because there are only 1,000 of us now. And so he petitions to Tyrion to talk to, or he wants Tyrion to petition to his sister so that they can get more help, more supplies, because the wildlings are starting to make themselves known. So something's happening with that. And then when we finally get back to Jon Snow and Tyrion saying goodbye, I think it's so his hand with his pee hand. Like he was just peeing off the edge of the wall. He's like, see you later. Okay, shake hands. That's so weird. I could not live in that time. Oh
man, anytime it shows, even in that first episode where like Jaime is doing Megan Fox, I'm like, this it's gotta smell so bad. Like, I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Just the smells in this era are probably just awful.
Really potent, pungent, unless you're like very high class, you might be getting a bath every week or something. I don't know.
Every week.
Every person though has got to be grungy and crusty that way.
I kind of honestly, like I don't know. This is probably just a me thing, but I do think of that every time I shake somebody's hand. I'm like, oh, this is like their penis hand.
Can't get it out of your head. That's funny. And then the ending of this episode with Arya learning from the Braavosi Knight, the first sword of Braavos. Okay, now I can't remember his name since you called him Adam Sandler.
No, it's Adam Sandler. Oh no, yeah, that is. Never mind. Yeah,
with a Spanish accent. But I like this intro, and I like the camera work and the staging of this scene, because as she enters, she's got the backdrop behind her of the door and the wall of the inside of the castle, but he's standing, and he's kind of silhouetted by the window, the giant window, and you get that expanse of land outside. And I think in relation to the visual that I'm seeing here, I made a connection in terms of what he represents as the knowledge and the skill and the mastery of craft that she's going to step into, because her world is going to be broadened, and he exists in that broadened state of mastery, where she is now at this point the beginner. So she's confined, and she's kind of closed off. She's limited in her skill sets, and so you see how that is that scene. The environment is kind of catering to those elements of these characters, and then they start their fighting, and he says, does he give the line, "What do we say to the god of death"? Syriel Farrell. His name is Syriel Farrell. Yeah, but I don't know. I liked that visual. I liked the training aspect. I always liked the mentor relationship, student relationship in movies and stuff. And I think that was pretty much it.
For sure. I think like me not vibing with that scene, it might be an artifact from the way that is a side effect from the way I'm watching these, and whereas I'm like deeply focusing on everything happening to take the notes necessary to retell this. So that it did feel that scene felt very jarring to me. So, because all of a sudden it's just like, we have like Spanish like clapping music in the background. It's like a Zorro vibe. I don't know. So,
yes. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it's fine as a, yeah. I'm not watching this in the way it was intended, so it's hard to, I don't know. I'm going to try to like paint a picture of what that's like throughout these podcasts, where it's like I'm noticing stuff that I'm pretty sure we're probably meant to be kind of like waved off by most people watching. But I have to focus on it in order to take the notes. So, do you think that I was gonna say like there's a lot of like other specifics, like when the Dothraki are walking through that field, and they do look like they aren't marijuana plants, but they do look like marijuana plants. Like, I wonder if that was
another note. That was another note, because you had a question in one of the previous episodes that we did about the prophecy or about something that related to.
Oh yeah, the Dothraki say the grass will eventually consume all or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and in that prophecy, they mention ghost grass.
Ooh.
Which is regional to that area, and so that's supposed to be ghost grass. That's the visual for that.
Okay.
The element that's supposed to cover the world. These tall, stalks of grass.
All right, and I know a thing or two about ghost grass personally. So, whenever, I mean, it's obviously being heavily implied. Then, yeah, that it's okay. Cool. So, and they are also kind of like a gypsy type of, I don't even know if that's PC to say that anymore, but they are very, like against the grain types of people. So, and I mean, there is a lot of like very heavy-handed, like social commentaries going on throughout the show. Like the Wall and the Wildlings is definitely like a reference to the Mexican border, I feel like. Maybe the White Walkers are like the cartel, in South America, and they're the ones that the Mexicans are trying to get away from. They're scary. It is George R.R. Martin. Every single George R.R. Martin story it's very heavy-handed in like the commentary he's trying to make. So it's probably what it is. Does that affect your guys' viewing in any way? Thinking of like the social commentary? I feel like I don't really think about that stuff as I'm watching. I just think about it. As a writer, I'm always trying to look at stuff from the perspective of a writer because I like doing that.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, how did they come up with this like how did they make this real world thing into a fantasy thing? And I feel like with George R.R. Martin, it's like very obvious. But it's also very masterfully done. So,
yeah, I think I see different parallels and stuff. I'm not so when it comes to like allegory and relating the elements of the story to real life things. I not so good at that, but I like picking out themes, motifs, and that's why I was like so invested in seeing this contrast in between Ned and Arya and Joffrey and Cersei, or Jaime and Cersei and Ned and Caitlyn.
Oh god, it's just a long list of names.
Essentially, yeah, right. Yeah, they essentially have the same storytelling points, but because of their characters, they navigate those storytelling points in a different way, which pushes the narrative in the direction it's going to end up. It gives you an interesting example of these characters in a similar situation, but making those different choices in regards to the environments that they've been influenced by the people they've been surrounded by, and by their status and their position in their economy, in their society.
Right.
So I think that's always fun.
Right. It's always, it's not an exact one-to-one comparison to the real world stuff. It's definitely like, I feel like the real world stuff is like a starting point for the world building. And then, the characters and the fantastical elements eventually become their own thing, for sure. That's how I mean, I think that's just how it's done, regardless of how I see it or not. But, I did want to talk about Sansa real quick. I just think she's a good...
Yes.
She's just like the stereotypical, like, rebelling sibling, right? Like, she's getting older. Yes. She's learning. She can control her own... I don't know. She's just like that character, just rebelling sibling. And she's annoyed with Arya, who I'm sure Arya probably seems like a really annoying little sister to have. But, so.
Yeah, I mean, this episode, to our discussion earlier about Sansa and her isolation, this episode ends with Ned bonding with Arya, and as far as we can tell, there was no resolution whatsoever to the conflict with him and Sansa from earlier in the episode.
Oh no, yeah, it definitely wasn't a big. That was definitely just like
that's one of the
father-daughter type of like, oh, this is everyone's gonna get what's going on here type of thing.
I think it's one of the challenges too of Ned in understanding where his actions take him, because as a person who's been in wars, I imagine you have to have a sense of responsibility for what you're gonna do to the other person, but. In this case, he's being so delicate with Sansa and staying away because he doesn't know exactly how to approach it and he doesn't want to mess things up. Whereas he's so comfortable with Arya that when he gives her a tool to utilize, even with this nature of nurturing through being selfless and giving to other people and being about other people, he sees that it's a product of the world that's, he's still giving her violence, and that's why at the very end when he's suffering from that PTSD, it's also this shock-induced notion of like, what am I doing? What have I done? So I can see that there's a contrast and what he's doing with Arya and Sansa, but then at the same time his approach to Sansa may be different because he's also I don't know, he's just figuring out how to be a parent.
Oh, for sure. He definitely has his favorite, I feel like, too. All right, so... it definitely... Yeah, I didn't even catch on to that, but yeah, we do get we see shots of how he interacts with, like, his... Yeah, both of them individually. Like, with Sansa, he's just like, I don't know, here's a doll. Hopefully you like it. If you don't, whatever, I don't know. But with Arya... Arya's a little more like forward with like what she wants, I guess. She's just like, I like fighting, I like boy stuff. And he's like, all right, well, if that's what you like, then no dolls for you, I guess. You get Adam Sandler. All right, what are our ratings for this episode?
If we're going on the rating of 5 being like true neutral, like 5 is not bad, it's true neutral. I would say it's a 5 out of 10 needles for me.
All right.
We'll give it a 7.
I think I'll go
7 out of 10.
7 out of 10. I'll go I'll go 6 again. I was between 6 or 7. I think I'll go 7. Why not? I kind of liked it a little more than the last. No, I don't know. I'll go 6. We'll go 6.
I do like it as an episode because of its ending versus the last episode, which was very somber and ended, on a more sad note. This one, you at least have that element, the visuals of bright, vibrant place, and you can see Ned interacting with family in an art.
At least with the last episode, some like interesting stuff happened at the end. It was like, oh god, Joffrey, he's a weird guy. In this one, we kind of just get a bunch of I think Kit said like a lot of talking basically, and like some interesting storylines are moving along, which is nice. I did like the Jon stuff. I thought the Jon stuff was fun. Tyrion's always a good time to watch his scenes. And we get Walter White. We get Bryan Cranston cameo. Is he in the show like often, or is that like his only episode?
Are you talking about Yoren?
Are you actually? Yeah, what?
Yeah, that's Bryan Cranston, right? That is straight up Bryan Cranston.
No.
It's not. No, I swear to God, it is. Let's check it out. Let's if it's not, then
wait, the guy who Tyrion is talking to, the guy who Tyrion goes on the excursion with, the drinking.
Yeah.
Guy.
Before Benjen comes in, is Brian? I'm pretty sure because I know Bryan Cranston is in Game of Thrones at some point. So, yeah.
Is he really?
Is Bryan Cranston?
What? I don't know. I'm not even gonna. Don't even. I mean.
Okay, wait, hold on. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm chat GPTing it right now.
I don't think he's in Game of Thrones.
Cranston
It'd be weird
in
if it's a cameo
Game
or
of
something.
Thrones. Okay, never mind. He's not.
You know who is in Game of Thrones? Ed Sheeran.
Okay, then who is?
Yes.
Okay, so what's this guy's name? Yoren.
Yoren, Yoren.
Okay, who plays Yoren in Game of Thrones? Okay, Francis McGee. I don't know. That sounds like a made-up name.
It does sound made up.
McGee.
I could have sworn that was okay. I didn't get a good look, I guess. I was just like, oh, that's Bryan Cranston. That's where he's at in this episode or whatever. Damn.
I'm gonna go House Bravosi with
Bravosi?
with my guy, the first sort of Bravos serial Pharrell. This episode, I'm House Bravosi.
Wait, who's that? Who is that?
That's the teacher, the sword dancer.
Oh,
the sword
okay.
teacher.
Borat. Yeah, I'm House Dothraki for sure this episode, but that's not a bad house, Bravosi.
Oh yeah, I think my favorite scene I think was the scene with Daenerys ordering her brother to whatever. That scene. The scene where the brother is like dethroned basically. So I'm going to go House Daenerys. I don't care. I don't really care about the other Dothraki. So they're cool, I guess. All right, so 6 out of 10 for me. We'll see. I feel like my bigger numbers are going to be the ones where all of the stuff starts like paying off. So I'm assuming the last. I was trying to like leave room for like the better episodes. So hopefully they do get better, and I can start using some 8s and 9s. But I feel like those are the ones I'm gonna have a lot more fun watching at least. But I still like this episode. I still like the show. So I just know it's gonna get better. I think that's why I'm keeping my numbers pretty low right now. Okay. So that that does it for this episode. That was episode 3, Lord Snow. I feel like he wasn't in it that much, but I guess he does. The name of the episode was Lord Snow. So Jon Snow, is that just like implying he got a very quick promotion basically? He's now like he's a little higher up in the food chain at the White Wall.
I don't know. I feel like it's a mocking statement at this point, like Kingslayer.
Oh, okay.
The guy who says it is not Pip, but one of the guys who's attacking him, and he walks out. He's like, "We'll finish this later, Lord Snow." You know, so
okay.
they're using it as a
Maybe it's like a double entendre. Not in a sexual way, but because it is like being used as a mocking term there, but also it's like it kind of is. It's not an official title, though, but yeah. If I were to make predictions, well, maybe I shouldn't because I don't want to like accidentally. I feel like it's being pretty clear with its like where it's heading. I think Daenerys is going to be in a point of power at some point. I think Joffrey's going to be in a point of power at some point. And I think the White Walkers are gonna come in and mess shit up at some point. So that's what it seems like it's setting up to me. So next week we have episode 4. I don't know what it's called. I think that does it for this episode. Yeah, we'll end it there. Bye. I don't know how to end these ever.
Bye.